Friends, how are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic here from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. My name is Mike Avery. Here, getting ready to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Something I do every week, something I've done for many, many weeks and years. I am a broadcaster here based in Michigan, broadcaster, podcaster as well, but everybody's a podcaster, right? Hey, Jim, good morning. How are you? Nice to have you along with us on this edition of Behind the Mic. Cliff, always a pleasure. Appreciate you being along with us too. On a beautiful Wednesday morning. Hello, Randy. How are you? Roger. Good morning to you as well. Corey, Captain Todd. I always look forward to these Behind the Mic segments, these live streams. Corey says, how's it going? It's going well. Going very well, thanks. Bernie, good morning. Always a pleasure to have you along with us. Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishin', teachin'fishin.com. Lance, I talked to Brad yesterday, and he said, Mike, your new boat's not going to be done for 2 weeks yet. I'm like, He says, but we've got one you can run. So I will hopefully be on the water in a loaner boat this weekend. The big guy's back in the morning. Hello, Bill. It is a beautiful morning. Johnny Bowler, how are you, buddy? Which reminds me, I better put in for that bear tag, huh? Do you know how Jays and Gaylord came through the tornado? They did not get hit. Johnny's asking the question of the day. Mike, what day is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's hump day. Joe, how are you? Your name, I got to tell you, your name came up again the other day. Indeed. Mike, and Mike. There you go. Yes, don't forget about applying for your Michigan Bear and Elk tag. Good morning, Ed. Are you back from Lake Erie? Starting to rain in Cass County, which means it's heading our way, probably. I just want to be able to get the lawn mowed when I get out of the studio here this afternoon. So it is Wednesday morning. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I told you, I was telling Lance Valentine, ain't that the truth? The gobblers have lost their gobble. What is that all about? I talked about that at length last week. What is that all about? And it's across the state. Well, hey, Caden, how are you this morning? And Mom Heather, nice to have you along with us. Who is that? Put it into today, so you know. Corey said, I'm looking for your comment, Corey. Put the smackdown on the walleye. I'm going to change my resolution on my screen here. Give me just a second. Oh, that's as big as it gets. My eyes must be getting worse. Not a surprise. Turkeys have stopped gobbling in the woods. What's up? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But they have. I'm done turkey hunting. I sat out there Monday night for 4 hours, never saw a bird, never heard a gobble. Nathan checking in from Germany. Jen and Mike in Belding. So I'm a pretty patient guy, and not as intense or hardcore as I used to be, but if I think there's a chance of being successful on a hunting or fishing trip, I'll put my time in. I can sit and wait forever, but when I sit out there for days and days and days and don't see a bird and don't hear a gobble, it's time to move on. Fortunately, as I was saying, I've got a new Angler Quest coming for this year. It's not done yet, and it's not going to be for 2 weeks. And I thought, man, if I don't get started on my fishing season until the middle of June, that's getting pretty late. But I talked to Brad Dupuis of Angler Quest the other day. Even in Ohio, Tim says the birds down there have been very quiet as well. I don't know what it is, except for maybe we're shooting off the birds that gobble and the ones that are left don't gobble, just like we did with ringneck roosters. Brian says he's done also, nothing but hens. It's a weird year. I've never seen a turkey hunting year. I never got a shot at a bird this year. I never had a bird within range. All right, Johnny, look forward to seeing you tonight, buddy. Turkey's quiet. Jerry says turkey's quiet there too. Where'd you go? Somebody will probably blame it on global warming. Yeah, probably. But there is a loner angler quest that I will have access to for a couple of weeks till mine is done. So Brad graciously offered that. I am doing my best. I will have a boat by the 12th for the Walleye for Warriors. Absolutely. Kevin says we heard him gobbling around the house a week ago. Since then, nothing. Chad says the UP was good a week or so ago. Paul says Tom's all over the place in Freeland and Lupton. Paul's in one of those spots where they've got birds. Oh, Tim says they're gobbling all over around him this morning. So there are some birds left in the state, and they are gobbling, and they're gobbling for Tim Roller. Couldn't pick a better guy to cooperate with. Although Tim's hardcore enough and talented enough, even if the critters, whether they're bear or deer or turkeys, don't cooperate, Tim will find a way to make it happen. So it looks like I'm going to do everything I possibly can to have a boat on the water this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. Speaking of this weekend, it's Memorial Weekend. How did we get to Memorial Weekend already? I don't know. Memorial Weekend always for me and for my family up until about 10 years ago. Memorial Weekend was the time we kicked off our summer salmon fishing season. It was always a trip out of Muskegon. We stayed at the Muskegon State Park and fished kings out of Muskegon, and then spent 3 out of the next 4 weekends, at least, of every month, and then 2 weeks in early August fishing kings. I don't fish kings anymore, but I do fish walleye. What else? Wednesday night, June 8th, we are going to do a Wednesday night live at the Brenton USA Hunting Rifle Factory in Lansing. It is just down the street from the governor's office. I think it is so cool that an AR-style hunting rifle is made just down the street from the governor's office. If she knew that, it would probably keep her up at night. No, here's what keeps her up at night: fixing the damn roads. That's what keeps her up at night. Honestly, do you think she's given that a second thought since she got elected on that campaign? Do you think she cares? Oh, she was too busy locking us down for COVID. Did I just make a political comment? I am so sorry, but not really. I told you about my grandson, Carter. And Ed, you'll be interested in this. Ed Bolanowski, who was a big trap and skeet guy. Corey got 4 kings on Saturday during the Tight Line for Troops event. Of course, our Walleye for Warriors event's coming up June 11th and 12th on Saginaw Bay. Actually, the fishing is on June 12th. The meet and greet is on the 11th. So Wednesday night, June 8th, we'll do a Wednesday night live at the Brenton USA plant. Here we go. This is interesting. Tony says the worst turkey season ever for him in Wisconsin. He's been hunting birds in Wisconsin since 1991. Never had a year where it was so hard to get them come in. Hunted 2 of the weeks, had tags for very little gobbling and response. Been successful in the last 30 years of turkey hunting. This year they got skunked. Oh, well, there's always the fall of next spring. Tony, you're not alone there, man. I mean, I don't pretend to be an expert turkey hunter, but I usually get a bird, or at least have an opportunity or opportunities at getting a bird. Not this year. Just a weird year. I hope this is not a sign of things to come. Speaking of guns, and that Brenton USA, I did order a 350 Legend from them. I will finally get my chance to get my hands on that gun the night of the Wednesday night live. So I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of guns, my grandson Carter, I've been telling you about his trap shooting for the local high school trap team. Last Thursday, he was on the range, and the 60-year-old gun that he's using, which was my grandpa's gun, it's a Remington Model 58. It's the first semi-auto gun that Remington produced under their own design. It's 60 years old, at least. Oh, and then there's also a Nets with Vets. I forgot about that one. And coming back for Walleye for Warriors. Excellent. So Carter was on the trap range, and his best shooting so far was 20 out of 50 birds. He had a goal of getting 25 birds last week, and he actually got 36. He shot 2 rounds of 18. So out of 25 birds around, he shot 18 birds for a total of 36. And the interesting part about that, or one of the interesting parts, is he's using my granddad's 60-year-old Remington semi-auto 20 gauge. Midway through a round, his firing Vets with Nets. Thank you, Corey. Vets with Nets. His firing pin failed to move. I didn't want to say it broke. It didn't get locked up. It didn't seize. It was just kind of gummed up. I mean, it's a 60-year-old gun. And when you take a gun apart, how many people actually take it apart to the point of cleaning out the firing pin? At least I don't. So he borrowed a buddy's gun and continued to shoot very well. I took his gun over to Duncan's in Bay City because they have some excellent gunsmiths over there. And I said, guys, would you go through this and clean it all out and make sure it's good to go and tell me your opinion on the gun? I mean, I'm convinced it's a good, safe gun, but you're the experts. Tell me. They took it apart. They cleaned it up. It's like a new gun now, only it's better because it has history and it's 60 years old and it's got thousands of rounds through it. And it's brand new. It's like good to go. So pretty excited about that because he's got one more shoot. And then the state competition, I think, comes up in third weekend in June down in Mason. So we'll be going down for that. What else? Oh, let me tell you who's on the show this week since nobody's asked. Speaking of Brenton USA, Mike King, the owner of Brenton USA AR style hunting rifles. John says, is there anywhere I can find 270 in 130 grain ammo? 130 grain ammo. I don't know, John. Just keep looking, I guess. I don't know specifically. I know it's been quite easy to find 350 Legend ammo, surprisingly easy. So Mike King is our leadoff batter on the show this week. He's talking about a brown bear hunt in Alaska that he just got back from. Now, he is a Michigan guy, but I love hearing about these Michigan hunters who go on these exotic adventures. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about Brenton USA hunting rifles as well, and we will promo the fact that we're going to be down there for a Wednesday night live on June 8th. And then Nick Bougie of the Michigan Wildlife Council wraps up that hour. In hour number 2, we're talking about bow fishing. You might know it as carp shooting, but it's bow fishing. It's a combination of hunting and fishing. I think it's very cool with Jason Horton of the Bowfish Association of Michigan. Then Randy Claremont. He's the Lake Huron Fisheries Basin Coordinator for the DNR. I want to talk about Atlantic salmon. I want to talk about the outlook for fishing on Lake Huron this summer. And Lloyd says he'll be in Mason. His grandson just started in the Memphis trap team. He's already shot many rounds in the 20s. Going to be a crack shot in no time. Isn't that cool, Lloyd, to watch that? I'm in the same boat you are. Same boat you are. It's so cool. And I also, in fact, I think for this week's Ask Avery segment, I will keep Randy around and follow up on the question about those brown-colored, hard-fleshed walleye that some people have found on Saginaw Bay. Now, so far, there are only reports of 4 fish, so I'm not going to say it's an epidemic. It's not a problem. It's not a concern. But it is something that, as long as I've got the guy on the show, the guy, I'm going to ask him about it. And then in hour number 3, Richard P. Smith. Richard and I have been talking back and forth about several topics. I like to stay in touch with Richard. I think he's a very knowledgeable guy. He's a very outspoken guy, which tends to make him a good radio guest. And he is convinced that if UP deer hunters knew what is going on with whitetail management in the UP, they would be up in arms, figuratively. So we're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about a reminder to put in for your bear and elk tag. Richard is a guy who has a Michigan Grand Slam. He has a book turkey, a book bear, and a book bull elk, all from Michigan. So we'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. I know that, Ed. It's interesting. Ed says a number of colleges have shooting sports teams. Some even offer scholarships. I'm telling you, if the shooting sports were a sport when I was in high school, I probably wouldn't have beat myself up so bad playing football and stuff. I probably would have just been shooting. Good morning, Brent. How are you, buddy? Look forward to seeing you down in Ohio. By the way, I think our Ohio trip is now full. Chad says, what about 20 trillion gallons gone? My Lakeshore, Michigan line has dropped over 20 feet. 20 feet. The water at the dock at my slip in the marina was down about 2 feet. In fact, we lowered the dock. I didn't do it. I asked the guy to do it. He dropped it like 22 inches, 22 inches. 20 feet? And where does that go, Chad? I think that's your question. Where does that water go? Wow. I will also record this month's Primal Tree Stands podcast. Lloyd says the same thing. He says, yeah, he said, man, I would have loved to have shot when I was kidding. Shooting is so much fun anyway.
We are just a minute behind on
okay.
Our clock, so
Alrighty. Alrighty. Joe says the fish drank it. Must be a lot of fish out there, Joe. Joe, did I mention your name came up again? Just saying. Just praying. You can't blame a guy for trying, can you? I'll also record this month's Primal Tree Stands podcast. I've got a guy on. I don't personally know him yet. I will know more about him after I Todd Stittelberg. He's the guy who started Antler King. The what do they say? The experts in whitetail nutrition. Food plots. I'm sure we'll be talking about food plots. Ed says that's more like it. The water's down 2 feet. It's sloped. It's not straight down. So you got 20 more feet of shoreline because the water went down a couple of feet. I kind of knew what you were saying. I was just having some fun with it. Same thing. Raber Bay said it's down 2 feet in the eastern UP. Ed says he shot competition at the Oakland County Sportsman's Club when he was younger. You're a young guy, though, Ed. They had it available when you were there. Yeah, Lloyd said they took the water and sent it out west. My dad always said, he said, to heck with gold and to heck with oil. He said, the thing that are going to become most valuable, he said, is water, because the people out west don't have it. And land. It's like, what? They don't make, who was it? The comedian said that? Not the comedian. That Will Rogers said, buy land because they ain't making no more. And water. I mean, we take water for granted here in Michigan, don't we? We're surrounded by it. More fresh water than I think any other state in the country. We're blessed. But some of these states out west, I mean, they're hurting for water. So yeah, we're pretty lucky. What else? Lloyd says, with all the rain, how is it possible to have the water go down this time of year? It's amazing, Lloyd, how many millions or maybe even billions of gallons of water it takes to raise or lower the Great Lakes an inch. And here's a question I have too. If the Great Lakes are all connected, how can one lake be up or down a certain number of inches and another lake be up or down a different number of inches? Aren't they all together? Doesn't water seek its own level? I've never understood that. Well, it's because of the locks. Really? What about the lakes that are connected that don't have locks? Chad says Nestle did it. Just saying. I think JS means just saying. You guys in your initials, sometimes I don't know. The LOL I get. I think the JS is just saying. Raber Bay says winter evaporation on Lake Superior is huge if there's no ice coverage. Tim says it is the locks. Okay, there's not locks between Lake Michigan and Lake Huron. So how can they be at different levels? Yes, the wintertime evaporation is a big deal. Jim says wind and heat have a lot to do with it. And Lloyd says he thinks Putin did it. Ed says, according to the weather radio, Lake Erie is still 52 inches above chart data. Oh, I'm going to turn this around because Look at this. Look at this. You have them both right here. On the right is Charlie Rude. On the left is Pat Johnston.
Hello?
These are the brains behind the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Beauty? Brains? Brawn? Beauty? I don't know. Oh. Brian says the earth tilts. Eric says different lakes have different temperatures, which means different evaporation rates. See, you guys are so much smarter than me. You can tell me why the different lakes have different levels, and I couldn't figure it out. So then why am I the guy sitting here at the microphone? You guys should be. Tom says he agreed. Putin did it. All right, my friends, I think Charlie's going to walk in here in just about a minute or so. We're going to kick off this radio show. About a minute, Charlie? Minute and 10 seconds. Okay. So in that minute, I will change in about a minute, I will change my focus from talking with you directly here on this Behind the Mic segment. So if you ask me a question, I will not be able to answer it directly as I have been right now. And each week I have people say, well, I asked you a question. Why didn't you answer? Once I start recording the show, that is my main focus. I just keep the live feed going because it would be as much as anything, so much of a hassle to turn it off. But I will be back tonight at 7:00 for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. Now I will be in my home office, in my home studio tonight. But again, June 8th, which is 2 weeks from now. My gosh, how can that be? Is my mic good, Charlie? I didn't. Okay. 2 weeks from, I got to start a clock here. June 8th, I will be alive at the Brenton USA plant, the factory in Lansing, just down the street from the governor's office. Maybe we'll invite the governor to join us. Nah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 years.
Yeah, I hope to get that yard mowed today.
Continues today.
All right, Brian.
Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods.
How are you, Charlie? Good. Froze my rear end off at a softball game last night. Got soaked at a softball game on Saturday. It was surprisingly cold last night. Oh, that breeze was nasty. All right, my friends, have a good day. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations here in the great state of Michigan. I am here every week for 3 hours talking about the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. Occasionally, we venture beyond our state. Oftentimes, as is the case with this week's show, I'll be talking with a Michigan person who took an out-of-state hunting adventure. That's coming up here shortly after the break. But first, what else is going on? It is Memorial Weekend. Again, I'm shaking my head. I don't know how it got to be Memorial Weekend. I mean, it feels like it was just Easter. It was just the New Year, and then it was Easter, and now it's Memorial Day, and then it'll be 4th of July, and it's crazy, isn't it? Time does indeed fly. Memorial Weekend tends to be the unofficial kickoff of the summertime season, and I think that's wonderful. It's a time to hit the road, to hit the water, to hit the backyard, to fire up the grill. The reason Memorial Weekend, Memorial Day is around is to remember those who died in service of our country. They gave the ultimate sacrifice. It's a cliche, but you think about it. Those people left the safety and security of their home, went to some godforsaken part of the world so we could do what we want on Memorial Weekend, just as an example. And they didn't come home. So, I think they deserve that we should honor them this weekend. So just keep that in mind, please. Now, Memorial Day also, though, has kind of morphed into something more. It's kind of a time to remember everyone who has passed on, whether they were in the service or not. That's the unofficial, right? That's kind of what it's become to be. Which gets me thinking about my dad. And always, he's gone now, but when he was here and healthy, and that's been a few years, our summer season, our Memorial weekend was always spent at the Muskegon State Park. We would camp there at the park. They had a couple of real nice campsites right on the water, right down by the boat launch. And we would fish kings for the weekend to kick off the summertime season. And then we spent the rest of the summer fishing kings, probably 3, if not 4 weekends a month, and then a 2-week vacation at the beginning of August. And it was spent chasing Lake Michigan salmon and trout. And man, it was fun. It was wonderful. And it was just, if you have not caught a big water salmon, especially a king, I would encourage you, to book a charter and give it a try. It is very, very addicting. When you get a 15, 20-pound fish on the end of your line and they fight, it's absolutely wonderful. Now, these days, I don't fish salmon anymore. I will admit I do miss it, but when I've got Saginaw Bay in my backyard, I've turned into one of those walleye guys. I was getting a bit concerned because I don't have a boat right now as we're recording the show, an Angler Quest. And Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest himself at Apex Marine, said, Mike, your boat's not going to be done for a couple of weeks. And I'm thinking, oh boy. To get started on the summertime walleye fishing in the middle of June, that's kind of a late start. Plus, we got Walleye for Warriors event coming up, and I have some trips that I needed to get people out on the water, and I was starting to get nervous. So Brad called me the other day, and he said, guess what? The bad news is your boat's still not going to be ready for 2 weeks. Oh, no. He said, the good news is we have a boat you can use. And it's kind of a prototype boat. If I remember what he was telling me, it's kind of one of the first models that they put together that is the new 2022 model year. So he said it's a little rough. He said there are some things you'll see that aren't quite finished yet, and it's a prototype, but it floats and you can fish. And I said, sign me up. I will be happy to take you up on that. Thank you very much, Brad. Wait, it's good. I'm glad that I've got a boat because I'm done turkey hunting. I admit it. I'm done. After too many hours sitting in a blind and not seeing a bird and not hearing a bird, I'm a pretty patient guy. And if there is any chance at all that I can get a chance at a turkey or a bear or a deer, I'll sit it out. But if I'm not seeing them, if I'm not hearing them, if I'm not seeing any signs of them, it's pretty hard. Especially with turkey hunting. If I hear birds gobble, I can call them in for the most part. Or at least I know that they are there and I'm willing to put the time in. But when there's absolutely no sign of them around, I just can't do it. So I think I'm done. And now that's good because the season's, even as we're sitting here in the studio, is basically over. There's a few more days. My season goes through the 31st. But it was just an interesting year. I mean, it's the first time that I can remember that I didn't get a bird or even get a chance at a bird. I only saw 2 longbeards while I was hunting this season, and I hunted hard for 5 weeks. Now, granted, it was on the same property. I did not pick up and move. If I would have done that, yes, I suspect things would have been different, but this is so close to my house. I can bounce over there and bounce back, and there have been birds there in the past, and I have been successful, and maybe I'm hunting memories, yada, yada, yada. I get it. But the fact remains that on that piece of property and the adjoining properties and a lot of other people that I've talked to say the same thing. The birds just are not there, and the birds that are there are not gobbling. Now, of course, as I said last week, there are exceptions to that. There are pockets across the state where there are a bunch of vocal birds, but it is interesting and not in a positive way. Just a reminder, speaking of critters, that you only have a few more days to apply for your Michigan bear or elk tag. Put those applications in now. You can do it at any license agent. I find it easier just to go to the website and do it online, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Sign up for your bear and elk tag. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. You are signing up for a chance at a tag. You are filling out an application for a tag. Personally, I will put in for a bull only. Well, it's either 6, but it's basically bull only elk tag. And I will not get it. And I know I will not get it, but I'm still going to do it. And I will put in for a 3rd season. Well, by the time you hear the show, I will have put in for a 3rd season in the Newberry district, and I'll be hunting with Johnny Bowler. And I'm thinking this year that I think I'm going to go to Ontario with my crossbow in August. And maybe if I feel like it, take a bear there, and I probably will because we need some bear brats because the freezer's getting empty. But when I come back to Michigan and hunt at the end of September with Johnny, I'm seriously thinking about using my Brenton USA AR style hunting rifle in a 350 Legend caliber for a couple of reasons. Number one, of all the bears I've ever taken, every one has been with a bow, and it's cool, and I love it, and it's up close and it's personal. So I think I would like the experience of bear hunting with a gun, and I think it would be cool to shoot my first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made gun. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of guns, my grandson Carter, who is shooting on the local high school trap team, and he's using my grandpa's 60-year-old Remington Model 58 semi-auto 20 gauge. And he was on the range last week, right in the middle of a round, and his firing pin, it didn't seize up. It was kind of dirty, and it wouldn't come forward hard enough to hit the primer and make the shell go off. And he was having a really good round too. So he borrowed one of his buddy's guns. I took my grandpa's gun aside and just manipulated it and worked it a little bit and got it loosened up and got it moving again. He was able to finish the round. By the way, this is his best round ever, 36 out of 50 birds, which is, I think, pretty good for a kid who's never shot a shotgun before 6 weeks ago. So I took that gun over to Duncan's in Bay City because they've got some great gunsmiths. And I said, guys, will you take a look at this? Just clean it up, open it up, clean it up, make sure everything's okay, get it all lubed up and bring it back to life. And they did. And it runs beautifully now. It's like a brand new gun, except it's better because it's 60 years old and it's got history. And to see him shooting that gun on the trap range is just so cool to know that it was my grandpa's gun. So how cool is that? Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show here after the break, speaking of guns, I'm going to talk with Mike King, who is the owner of Brenton USA AR style hunting rifles. He just got back. He's a Michigan guy, but he just got back from wild, crazy hunting adventure in Alaska for brown bear. We want to talk about that. Also, we'll talk about a Wednesday night live that we are going to do at the Brenton USA factory in Lansing the evening of June 8th at 7 o'clock. The Nick Bougie of the Michigan Wildlife Council wraps up the hour. In hour number 2, Jason Horton of the Michigan Bow Fishing Association talks about what we commonly call carp shooting. And then Randy Claremont of the DNR on Atlantic salmon, trout and salmon in Lake Huron, and a follow-up on those discolored brown hard-fleshed walleye. Is it the big deal that some people, including the media, are making it out to be? And finally, in hour number 3, we'll talk with Richard P. Smith, who says that if UP deer hunters knew what was going on, he said they would be up in arms, figuratively. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. So it's a busy show. I'm glad you're with us right here on Outdoor Magazine. All right, my friends, have a good day. Yeah, he won't hear it. So, yeah, he will the next thing. All right, my friends, I got to go. See you tonight, 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.